Right, beginning of September now, the 3rd I think, and the weather's nice. The rain's held off for an afternoon, so I'm getting on with one of these jobs. A little sideline of mine is bending pallet trucks. I've had this one for years, 20 years, easily 20 years. I found it on Grimsby Docks, and it was just the bearings wear out. They call them the load wheel. On the small wheels, the bearings wear out, and the fish merchants just discard them. And I've used it for all manner of things in the garden. Obviously, it's no good to you unless you've got a good sized patch of concrete in your garden. Made a new plastic cover there because inside there is a little delicate rubber pot for the hydraulic oil. Put a new cover on there to keep the grease in. But the latest one is an absolute swine. I put so much effort into this damn thing. It's untrue. It's alright at the head end. The pump is up fine and the big wheels are fine. I've greased everything. There's a grease nipple down there, which actually I've yet to do. The grease nipple there. I always grease those, spray grease into here before I sell them. But this one, both of these, the pins on the load wheels have been completely seized up, and it was that bad. Nothing I could do, no amount of hitting with hammers and WD-40 and such like would do it. So what I had to do eventually was to chop this lever, which obviously connects the front end to lift the load wheels when you pump it up. So I've already finished this one, of course. I've done this one. I had to chop that and then cut through here. I think I cut one of these completely off on one side and chopped through that one on the other because it was jammed solid in there, to get this whole piece out here in order to get it into the vise and free off one of the main pins. You need, for them to work properly, you need obviously the wheels need to rotate, but the bearing, there's a bearing in there like these, look. There's a bearing in there. Well, it rotates on the pin can sit still. The pin in there moves, but that pin has also got to be moving in order to for the thing to move up and down, and it was completely seized. Even these nylon bushes at the end, that nylon bush there, were stiff. That's one end, that's a support that I ground completely off that I shall finish up welding back on the leg. And I still couldn't, even hitting these in the vise, I couldn't get this pin to move at all, so I've had to slice all the way through, and only then will it only just move. Lots of hitting in the vise, and you can just see there that it's you can just see a little piece of rust come through there from hitting it that side. So I've now got to hit it that way, that way, that way, that way. It wouldn't move at all until I just widened these cuts with the big chisel. Probably don't have to do it much on that side because I think I'm there now. So I can just spray some WD-40 on it, keep hitting it one way, then the other, then the other, and then I'll be able to get the Stilsons on it and hopefully rotate it. Get enough grease in there, lubricant, WD-40, anything I can get in there, into there. Rotate it, a bit more grease, WD-40 till it's free moving. Then I shall weld it back up, just a seam of weld. Put it back on there, weld the cut up in that connecting rod, weld that up where I've had to cut through it there, weld the other one on, and we'll have a serviceable pallet truck, and I can sell it for 70 or 80 quid. But the amount of time I've spent bashing about at it to try and get it free, I could sell it for 270 quid and I'd scarcely be making any money back for the hours I've spent. But anyway, I'm on the homeward stretch, so I'm just going to sign off, start hitting through there a little bit, and I might do another video just to join onto this one just when I've got a little bit further on with it. Right, so fast forward 20 minutes, I've got that knocked out. I've got the bush from out of the middle, of course, it fell out, but it was full of rusty gunk in there, so I've cleaned it out. I've given this a polish with the flat wheel on the angle grinder. I've had to get the ends of these, they'd mushroomed with me hitting them so much to get it out. I've had to flatten it back out on the anvil, just hitting it constantly. I could have ground it, but you might as well keep the metal on. And you can see it's actually concave there now. But I've checked and it fits through everywhere okay, because what I shall do is weld this little support hole back on the legs, but I need to make sure that it goes through there alright, and before it was stuck fast, so it goes through everywhere alright. So I can put this back together, pack a stack of grease in there, to try and stop that from seizing on. I've never known plastic seize to steel before, but it had. The rust of the steel had obviously kind of welded itself into the plastic somehow. Never known anything like it. There's the groove that I made in the pin with the slitting disc when I opened it up. So hopefully this won't be giving anybody any trouble now. No, I won't put any grease in there yet. I'm just going to put a bit of weld on those slits. I could get away with leaving it, but it will obviously weaken it. So we're all fully functional. They all rotate. That pin works. That pin works. That pin there works. So we're back in action for the second wheel, which was seized solid. So I've got my fantastic little welder set up over here. Better find somewhere to put the camera. Forgot about that. Put that on here. I'll do it. So, here she is already. Welder set up. Bit of steel polished on that con rod there. That'll be welded back onto there. There's a hole there that I shall just knock shut, and then just put a dab of weld on there. So, first things first then. First things first, which? Don't know, I'll think about that in a minute. Yeah, actually, I think better off with these over there. Put that there. Is that better? I hope so. Right, let's get cracking. Wrong way. I think that's about right. Bit of eye shut welding. Oh, damn, it's not on. Where's that pin? So I can see what it looks like. How's that? Now, as you can see, not very good at eyes closed welding. I just want to get a tiny bit of tack on it. Just stop it moving. And then give it a bit more of a weld. Oh yeah, that little wrap. I think that's level. Build it while I'm resurrecting this. I sometimes start something, why did you do this? But it's just good fun, and I learn something every time I do it.
Where'd you get it from?
I found it on the docks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They wear them out, or rather, usually it's these bearings here that go, and fish merchants are such lazy buggers. They won't want to put any grease or anything on these things, so they just use them for 2 or 3 years and just throw them away. And they'll leave them kicking about on the dock. And I've sold. This is the third one I've had in about the last 3 months. I sold the other 2 for 70 quid each. One guy that came to London selling these, I should be 100. So about 2.5 to 3.5 quid. So it's just a bit of fun, a bit of beer money, and it sort of, you know, gets me practicing stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm currently using the new welder, which is absolutely fantastic. I had a really old one about, must have had it 25, 30 years, and it was absolutely rubbish. When I got that, all of a sudden I became a good welder after years of thinking I was a lousy welder. It wasn't the work.
It was the tools. Not the workman.
Exactly. So the next bit is to weld that. You guys going out?
Oh, it's going to the bow.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Alright, okay. We'll see you in a bit. Yeah. Right, that goes there. Looking by the other one. See you later. Right, this connection rod next. Just need to have it so that it doesn't bend. Right there. The earth go. Go on, you swine. Yeah. Oh, hell. Plenty hot enough. See what? Bugger it, blown a hole in it. No good at vertical welding. Anyway, that doesn't matter, I can do the little cosmetic bits later. Yeah. What I did with this one, I don't think I bothered with the pins. They've got pins in them and they just rust through. Or don't rust through, they just rust in and you can't get the damn things out. And I've broken about 4 or even 5 bloody drill bits trying to get them out. So what I do is just put a little tack of weld on the end. Now I've got to put a bit of weld on those 2 slits, bit of weld there to nip that up, and a bit of weld on the end of the pin. And theoretically I've got a serviceable pallet truck which 3 weeks ago was no good to anyone. Let's see if we've got one that'll go up and down. I think it needs a bit of weight on it. That first side that I did still a bit stiff. Boy, hey! Really marvellous. The legs were all rusty and it had lost a couple of millimetres of steel from rust, so I banged all it off and put that hammer out that I've got knocking about. So now I shall just proving to myself that it works. I'll go back and just do those little bits of weld the hole up that I blew in the in that piece of box section con rod. We've got a pallet truck. Starting to sell it now. Great. Another one bites the dust.